Guys, while the very best road cyclists on the planet are doing more and more high-intensity interval training during their winter, preseason, base season phases of training, you are still under the impression that any intensity is strictly prohibited. November, December, January, nothing of intensity. It clearly is going to make you peak instantly. It's clearly going to ruin all the gains that you've made with your base training. I want to talk to you guys a little bit today about why, if you want to have the best season of your career next year, it is going to be in your interest to include some high intensity work during your off season. And yeah, guys, I know that is a harsh statement. It kind of pains the ears a bit to hear, but this is the reality. The best cycling teams in the world are leaning towards this approach, more intensity year round. So there must be a reason, guys. I want to go in to some ideas that I have, some personal experience today, why this is and why you need to include some high intensity suffering in the legs intervals even in your base period. So guys, where is this big change in training philosophy coming from? Like I say, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the whole idea of doing these long 5-hour, easy, low intensity base rides every day, racking up huge hours of low intensity volume, that was how the best riders in the world trained. What has changed in these last 4 or 5 years? All of a sudden, these guys are hitting it hard from mid-November, December when they start training. Yeah, I'm not saying that they're smashing intervals every day, but they're definitely not going 4 months without touching these higher zones. I've tried both ways, kind of doing this very low intensity November, December, January approach. And I've also tried it the opposite way, this kind of newer age approach. I always end these seasons with my best legs. I end the season in early October and I'm always flying. And so I feel like with including a bit of these high intensity sessions throughout my November, December, January workouts really allows me to kind of transfer that increased level that I gained from the previous season over to my next season and benefit and improve. Guys, we want to be improving every year. That's the objective. We just spend 4 months only doing low intensity training. Guys, we lose that ability. We want to stay in close connection with these high intensities. It is extremely important to put a bigger emphasis on these lower intensity miles, this aerobic development during the winter. But we also need to stay in touch with the fact that when are these bike races won or lost? Obviously, when it's all out intensity. And I feel like it's just not a good idea to spend 4 months, 3 months, never going to those places, never reminding ourselves what that feels like, never giving our body that little reminder of, this is what it feels like to go hard. That is what I'm training for. It's almost like we can lose touch with what a bike race is. I think it's really important to give myself these small doses of this higher power. For me, if I'm working on really being able to ride 10, 15, even 20 minutes at 450 watts, I need to definitely make sure that my body is still in touch with that 450 watt zone. And what I want to do is give my body really the minimal dose necessary, the very lowest possible dose. We do not want that big interval, high intensity stress on our body, but we definitely need to give it a small dose, just a reminder. And that way, once we do get to February, when we're tuning up for these races, hopefully that transition phase is way less intense, way less jarring on our body. And we're able to, hit it a little bit harder without having to spend a few weeks kind of transitioning between, okay, I've done 4 months of only zone 2 and a little bit of tempo on those spicy days. And now all of a sudden my coach gave me a session where I do 3 by 10 minute sessions of 40-20s. And I go out and it's such a foreign effort for me that I can't even do it. My body is just so far away from that level of fitness that I can't even do it. And that's when we get into trouble, guys. We're not fit enough. We're not adapted enough to even do these sessions, to even benefit from these sessions. So guys, how do we go about incorporating this training strategy into our own plan? I like to think of it like this. Think of your biggest weakness as a rider. That thing in your mind where you say, ooh, yeah, that's an effort that I really struggle with. What do we want to do, guys? Once every 10 days, 2 weeks during your off season, do some type of high intensity interval session specifically aimed at that exact weakness. Once every 2 weeks. Keep that familiarity going. You want to continue working on that weakness. If we should always be continuously working on the parts of our racing, the parts of our sport that we are worst at doing, obviously. So that doesn't mean that, guys, we're improving that specific thing all season, all racing season. You're trying to get better. And then all of a sudden you do November, December, January, you are doing nothing that's specific to that. That is not a way to get better at that specific thing. So pick your weakness, try and do a session really directed at that. Talk to your coach, direct a session once every 2 weeks, specifically at that. And I really think you're going to see a major benefit in the next season.
Guys, and if you aren't totally convinced on adding a bit of intensity to your winter and you want to go the pure zone 2 route, check out this video. At least learn how to do it properly.
Hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, really appreciate any like, any subscription.